What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday, middle of the day. Man, and I thought that it was just going to be Deadpool Wolverine to talk about. We have the movie event, arguably, of the year, post-Dune 2, to talk about as well, along with some major drops. Really, one big one in particular that dropped last night at San Diego Comic-Con in Hall H. I'm joined by Luke of Luke Reviews and the one, the only Jeremy Nunez, Mr. I'm Never Coming Back. Guys, we're after 6 long months of really little to no Marvel content to talk about, we finally have something. You know, it's not much, but it's something, I would say. All of that and more on today's episode of the Talkin TV podcast. Stay tuned. Oh, man, I thought I knew how I was going to start this, but, man, I've still been thinking about it just since last night. I'm like, how are they going to make this work? How? Everybody online, I don't need any pretenses. Everybody online knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody was glued to Twitter. Everybody saw the massive updates. There's no way. People have been hitting me up nonstop since last night. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. You want to talk about the Comic-Con news, or do you want to talk about Deadpool first?
I think Deadpool. I'll do Deadpool.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, I couldn't have asked for better synergy. Guys, like I said, we're here to talk about Deadpool Wolverine. We're here to talk about the massive Comic-Con announcement. So, you know what? I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna say Comic-Con first, because that one, it's like they like Marvel knew exactly what they were doing with this Comic-Con reveal. You know, I feel like with Comic-Cons in the past, it's always been a matter of it's either quantity or it's like one massive news drop. And I feel like we were being set up for a lot more than we actually got, because in hindsight, the actual amount of information and news and updates that we got last week, it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. It was Brave New World, it was Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four. They were really, really focusing on like their big 3 slate for next year. They didn't give us a massive release date schedule for the next like 3 to 4 years, which I was shocked by. They didn't give us information on any really movie post Fantastic Four. No Blade updates, Armor Wars, Shang-Chi 2, Doctor Strange 3, Thor 5. Nothing on any of those.
No X-Men.
No X-Men. You know, no future Spider-Man. No TV show information. Nothing. They really wanted, like, pulled it back and streamlined and focused on their prime slate of next year, which, again, the likelihood of Blade joining that slate, it's slim to none. I would not be surprised. That movie's definitely getting its release date pushed, and I would not be surprised at all if they end up not even making it, honestly, especially after a little tease that's gonna be exactly in the movie that we're gonna talk about in a little bit. There's only one. There can only be one. So, but then obviously it's setting us up for the big reveal. So we all know it. They're like, okay, what's gonna happen with Secret Wars and what's gonna happen with Avengers 5 post Jonathan Majors? And I mean, they really brought out. First, they brought out the Russos. They're like, the Russos are back. They're like, after Jackman said that he was never coming back to Wolverine, and he's back now as Wolverine.
After I said I'd never be back.
After you said you'd never be back, here you are for your 4th fucking appearance on here. And after the Russo said they were done with Marvel, well, we all saw how their individual careers have gone up. An Apple TV bomb, the worst reviewed Netflix action movie ever, and now an upcoming Netflix sci-fi.
The best thing they did since Endgame was the pizza show they had.
Yes. The pizza show that they did during COVID.
The pizza talking.
The pizza talking about filmmaking. It's like, wow, it'd be nice if you could actually, you know, apply some of those techniques to your own movies.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. But yeah, they said, yeah, we were never coming back to Marvel, and now we're back. And if there's one lesson that I think that needs to be learned from all of these, you know, postulating post-COVID, it's that never say you're not coming back. Because nobody believes it now. Even Jackman is like, yeah. I love how on some of the interviews, Jackman is basically admitting, is like, yeah, I'm basically a sociopath for basically stating that. So, but the big reveal, obviously, Secret Wars confirmed for 2027, Avengers 5, Doomsday, retitled From the Kang Dynasty, and then the reveal, they got the lineup, the mask comes off, Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. So, guys, I mean, break it down. What were your initial thoughts, feelings when the reveal happened before we get into the whole nitty gritty technical how it's going to work? Because there's a 1.5 million people that have been hitting me up. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts, man, when it happened?
I saw it. I saw the news right as Deadpool Wolverine ended for me last night. It finished, and I turned my phone on, and I saw the news, and I out loud went, "Okay, sure, whatever." I was like, all right. Like, I didn't know how to really feel about that. I was just like, so it's just a movie about Doctor, because the movie's called Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, isn't he a Fantastic Four bad guy?
Originally, yes, but
Right?
given how the character has kind of evolved since then, and given
I thought it was a Superman bad guy.
But yeah, that too. But also, it's the role that he ended up playing in the 2015 Secret Wars comic book, which they are very clearly adapting. You know, he is a pretty central figure and has kind of evolved to become like a overarching big bad along the lines of like Thanos, rather than say like an individual Fantastic Four villain.
So is he gonna be teased around these 3 movies? Because you mentioned Thanos, and Thanos shows up 3 times before,
right? Yeah, the first 2 Avengers and then Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians, right? So 3 times. So are they teasing that he's showing up in these 3 movies? Because if it's just one 3-hour Doctor Doom movie,
3-hour Doctor Doom movie with the entire cast of the rest of the MCU.
Yeah, you know, unless he's doing, I know there's like the variants. You know, I'm getting too deep into it. But
no, please, as you should, go deep.
I know
that's like the purpose of it.
I know there's like variants where it's like Tony Stark variant where he becomes Doctor Doom. Is that where they're leaning towards?
More than likely, if I had to guess, more than likely
they're gonna. I think that's what's gonna happen because they want the trailer moment,
right?
Of
exactly.
Doom taking his mask off and then Peter being like, oh, like,
exactly. They want to build to those moments, and they know their audience, and they know the types of moments that the audience reacts to, you know, and it's kind of the reason why their movies have been as successful as they have. One of many, obviously, as we've postulated over the years. But yeah, more than likely, it's going to be, they're not going to have it be Victor Von Doom, or if they do have the character of Victor Von Doom appear, it will be a one-off in the Fantastic Four movie. But no, this is going to be a Tony Stark variant that becomes Doctor Doom. That's exactly what this is going to be, 100%.
It should be called Avengers Money Talks.
I mean, that's what all these movies should be called, honestly. But, I mean, it's whatever. Luke, walk us through your thoughts when you first saw the news.
Well, I first saw it through a meme, so I thought, okay, it's weird. And I opened Twitter, and it's real. So I thought, oh, we actually went there.
Yep.
I'm not surprised at the dekangification of the MCU. I guess he finally got distracted by everyone. But having it simmer throughout the day, I'm open to it. I'm ready to see what they have in store. Having one guy who's destroying the timeline be the same guy as the one who saved the timeline. I'm open to it. Marvel usually know what they're doing. I mean, it's Avengers movie. I'll have to be there. I'm just wondering at the most regular of moviegoers who like only go to the Avengers movie and he just sees Robert Downey Jr. that he's gonna be confused.
Look, what I will say to that is that I think the idea of the whole regular average moviegoer, I think that it's safe to say Marvel is kind of above that now, you know, like, because at the end of the day, regardless of whether you've only seen certain movies within the MCU or are a diehard fan and have seen everything in the MCU, there is what's called the MCU has the MCU has kind of elevated itself to this point in culture where even if you don't necessarily are individually watch the movies, you have some familiarity with it. You know, it's kind of like how Netflix has permeated the culture. You know, Netflix isn't just another streaming service. It is Netflix. It is a part of the cultural conversation. So as far as the whole, as far as my thoughts on it, at first I was like, really? Like, this is the best you could do? Really? Yeah. But then I thought, right, that was my initial thought. But then I took a step back. Then I thought about it a little bit. And I'm like, God fucking damn it, Marvel. I hate you so much because you take the dumbest, most worst sounding possible fucking ideas and are like, we could probably make this work. And it's so funny because, Jeremy, I'm actually, I'm going to bring this up because I was talking with Mike about this and I'm like, the reason why, I found out the crucial reason as to why certain TV spin-off prequels work and others don't. So obviously, what's the biggest failure of a spinoff, right? In TV history. Joey, easily. Easily, right? And obviously,
Joey.
yes, again, there have been successful spin-offs, Frasier from Cheers, obviously, and what's it called? There's been many
a lot
others,
of
like
Norman Lear,
Norman Lear, like in the networks. But in the modern day streaming era, right, I find that there have only been 2 massively successful and well-received TV prequel spin-off of popular IPs. That's Better Call Saul and Cobra Kai.
You don't want to count one of the Yellowstones?
No, because they're all in the same universe. Those aren't technically that's like set up like as its own cinematic universe. These shows were afterthoughts that were premiered long after their original IPs.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that those 2 shows have in common, and again, I know this is a really long tangent, but I promise you it will connect back. The thing that those 2 shows both have in common, they started off as jokes. They started off as jokes. They're like, this is a stupid idea. This will never work. They're like, Better Call Saul, right? Let's do a prequel show about Saul. And Cobra Kai evolved as a long-running joke on How I Met Your Mother and the fact that Barney was a massive Johnny Lawrence fan as being the original Karate Kid. And Marvel has taken that formula and run with it, because I guarantee you, after the whole Kang Jonathan Majors thing and after the whole Multiverse of Madness thing, when everyone was rumoring that Tom Cruise was going to be Superior Iron Man and that, somebody, I don't know if it was Feige, I don't know if it was D'Esposito, I don't know if it was one of the writers or producers, but somebody was like, and they were spinning around the rumor mill of trying to bring back Downey and Evans with the whole multiverse thing. And somebody was like, what if they just did Downey as Dr. Doom? And whoever it was, Kevin Feige was like, let's think about this. Let's muster this.
It feels like they slipped deviant art under Kevin Feige.
Literally, that's exactly it. And it's gonna tie into our conversation about Deadpool once we eventually get to it, as far as how big of an influence the internet has on the Marvel property and how that's part of the reason as to why the MCU is the unstoppable juggernaut that it is. But they just pulled off the greatest marketing ploy ever, because regardless of whether or not their movies are quality for the next couple of years, they have guaranteed that all eyes are going to be on every movie and property they have coming out up until Doomsday and Secret Wars. They've guaranteed it. Everybody is going to go see Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Blade, whatever, to see hints of, okay, is Downey going to be? And the minute that the dust settles and everybody kind of forgets about it, then they drop the trailer, and then it's game over. And they are literally going to do exactly what they did with Infinity War and Endgame, where Doomsday is going to revolve around Downey as Doom, and all the other Avengers are going to be supporting players. He's going to wipe the field, make Battle World at the end of Doomsday, and then everyone's going to regroup in Secret Wars in order to beat him. It's going to be, I guarantee you, that's what's going to happen.
Secret Wars is going to be so big because it's interdimensional. You're going to have Toby come back.
Yes.
You're going to have Hugh Jackman come back. You're going to, it's going to be...
You're probably going to have, Fassbender and McAvoy.
Yeah.
Probably.
Honestly,
yeah. They might even throw in a hint of the Fan Forsic universe before that universe gets wiped
I wouldn't
out.
be surprised.
Would not be surprised
if it's Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller.
Yep.
Hanging out with the new Fantastic Four we have. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 Chris Evanses hang out.
Right. Yeah.
Halle Berry Storm. I'm not it's gonna be a 4-hour
extravaganza. Yeah, because that's Marvel's thing. Every time they have to one up, they went from 6 to 9 to 12 to however goddamn many they had in Infinity War and Endgame. I lost track, and now they just have everybody. This is going to be the most expensive but most profitable movie ever.
Pratt will still have the "and" credit at the end.
Yep. And James Cameron is going to be like, I got to release another cut of Avatar in order to make sure that's at the top.
I'm going to make Titanic 2. Fuck it.
Titanic
Jack
2.
Is back.
Yeah, Jack is
back.
back. Yeah. This time it's personal.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Needless to say, they pulled off a barn burner. It was pretty momentous. It was a momentous occasion, man. The month of June and July, man. July 13th, Trump gets shot. July what was yesterday? July 27th, Robert Downey Jr. back as Dr. Doom. I'm telling you. Core memories being formed here, people.
It's I don't care about the Marvel Cinematic Universe like that. I'm very tangentially kind of looking at it from afar. I left it behind with Endgame or No Way Home, really. This makes me think, though, they're kind of going back to how they were from like 2013 to 2017.
Yeah.
Where the shows they had, which were what, like Daredevil and all that stuff. And
yeah, they had the Netflix shows and the ABC shows, and they distanced themselves from those shows as far as possible.
But the thing about those shows is that those shows they dealt with the ramifications of what happened in the movies.
Yes.
So far enough that you didn't have to watch them.
Yes.
If you did, you got a little kick of, oh, that's interesting, as to that's why that's happening. Whereas the Netflix or the recent Disney Plus shows, as of late, have been so like, if you missed out, then you're assed out. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I feel like they're going back to that.
Yes, they're definitely pulling away from that, and they're still using the TV shows to introduce some new characters. And Daredevil will be a very, very big event.
That's going to be interesting.
That's going to be interesting, especially since they have plans to factor Daredevil heavily into the next Spider-Man movie as well. So, but that's kind of like a unique thing because Daredevil always kind of stood above, head and shoulders above the rest of really all the TV shows that they put out.
I thought Punisher was really good too.
Punisher was pretty solid. I don't think it was as good as everybody else said it was, but it was still pretty solid. And I'm also a big fan of Luke Cage. I really think Luke Cage is slept on.
Luke Cage, the second half of that first season is better than the first half.
Wait, what?
Wait, no, whoa, I'm confused.
Hold on. The Mahershala Ali section is the first half.
My bad. I'm confusing it with the
I was worried for a second there.
You know why? Those shows, that show and Iron Fist are filmed so blandly. I really confused Iron Fist with Luke Cage. Iron Fist was bad all around. My bad. The first half of Luke Cage I liked a lot more.
And then they kill off Mahershala Ali, and you're like, what are they doing? That's probably why Mahershala is fighting them so hard on Blade. He's like, you're not fucking cutting me out of this shit. Not like you did with Luke Cage.
Forgot about that. Forgot that he was in that too, and he was in fucking wow.
Yep. Yes, he was.
Good Lord.
But yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of years of content, to say the least, and especially, honestly, we needed a boost like this because I'm sorry, Luke, I know that we've been going back and forth as far as whether the movies are back or not, but man, this year's been rough. This year's been testing my love and enjoyment of movies.
It hasn't been as much of a banger as last year. The really strikes definitely impacted things.
Yes.
The Batman got delayed another year, which I was very sad about. That was going to be next year anyway, but still. I like Twisters a lot more than you.
Yes,
so I
you
guess
did. You like Twisters a lot more than I did.
Twisters. I'm trying to go see it in IMAX.
It's whatever. It's Luke, you said it the best. What was it that you said about that movie?
It's a 5-star, 3-star movie.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
On Letterboxd you give it 3 stars and a heart.
Yes, that's exactly
I gave it 5 stars in the heart, but
yes. That's it. Also, Luke here is the biggest Michael Bay fan. He's the only guy that's a bigger Michael Bay fan than I am. So
I still pitch him for Secret Wars. Clearly, no one listened.
But you know what?
He's making Skibidi Toilet now.
Yeah, that.
That's right. I don't even know what that is.
That was my thought. Exactly. Literally, Mike told me that at the store the other day, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And he's like,
"Like a head in the toilet."
I feel like my mom, whenever I went up to her with like stupid Star Wars shit, she's like, "What the fuck are you talking to me about? Like, who the fuck is Shimmy Skywalker?
Shimmy Skywalker."
And get away from me. Like that's how I feel like with Skibidi Boop Toilet, whatever. I'm like, what the fuck? Get out of here. Read a book. Get away from me.
All right. Okay, let's get back on track somewhat. Deadpool, right. So obviously it's been a rocky road. It's kind of crazy that it's been 6 years since the last Deadpool.
Yeah, man. Holy shit.
The last time that a Deadpool movie came out, my niece wasn't even born yet. She was born a week later. And now she's 6.
They didn't let me in to Deadpool 2. I was 2 days off being 16.
God, that's right.
Wow.
They let me into the first one.
They let 14. You into the first one underage. That's crazy.
I just turned 20.
That was May. So I was 20. I was 3 months away from turning 21 when that movie came out. So
20 years old. Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy to see everything that's happened since then. Obviously, again, I have a list right here: Disney buying Fox, COVID, the MCU in trouble, strikes, Deadpool fast track, the year of 2024, the fact that, they literally, they were putting so much emphasis on this movie that they pushed every other movie to next year. Granted, every other movie needed significant work, but they were like, okay, if we're putting out one movie in this strike-afflicted year, it's going to be this movie. And after watching it, I'll say it was a very, very smart decision, regardless of your thoughts on the movie. And I got some major problems with the way that people have been reacting to this movie. A very, very smart decision. First and foremost, making this the only major MCU movie, not counting all the Sony movies that they're like, okay, we got a Marvel gap year. Let's throw out all our shit now so that people who are starved for superhero content can put it out. I think the first thing that this movie has kind of proved is that it's kind of proved what James Gunn has been saying the last couple of years, which is that people haven't been starved for superhero content. People don't have superhero fatigue. People have bad movie fatigue. And the reason why all of these properties, with the exception of a few, have been flopping the last couple of years is not that they haven't been, that people are tired of superhero movies. It's that they have been, for the most part, pretty much all bad, where even Marvel was finally succumbing to like the bad superhero kind of fatigue. But there have been some good ones in the last couple of years. Obviously, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, the Snyder Cut, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, No Way Home. I even still like Wakanda Forever, honestly. So like there have been some good ones. It's a massive overflux of too much mediocre content, I would say. But I would say that if anything, it's that Marvel has learned the right lessons from the strike as far as pulling back and mitigating their content. Obviously, the return of Bob Iger to Disney. So I would say that my initial thoughts on Deadpool, before we even get into the movie itself, is that it is a sign of the MCU taking the right lessons going forward. Would you guys be inclined to agree?
I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. We talked about in the Comic-Con bit that they are scaling back. They're not going to do 5 movies. They're going to do 3 movies and like 2 TV shows that you don't have to watch to understand the big picture. Because like most of them haven't been like good at all. Maybe one or two.
I mean, as bad as their movies have been, good lord, some of those.
Like, we are never seeing Moon Knight again. We got no Midnight Suns announcement. I'm convinced he's gone.
You think he's just gone? Which is crazy.
Yeah,
I thought Moon Knight was one of the better TV shows personally. Not that that's saying much, but and Oscar Isaac, man, his track record with superhero properties is just, man, it is not good. It is not good.
Other than Spider-Man 2099.
Other than Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
That's the only one. That's the only one. There can only be one. Apocalypse.
He can't be live action in superhero stuff.
No, he can't. He really can't. So needless to say, right? So like I said, there's 2 obviously the major conversations to be had here, right? Which is obviously the MCU. What's it called? Yes, Dantre is in the chat. DJ DeBlackio is here. What's it called? There you go, Dantre. Gave you your shout out, but you still couldn't actually be on the stream because you're at Comic-Con still. What's it called? So there are kind of 2 different conversations to be had here. There's the Deadpool conversation and the MCU conversation. And what I like is that, as far as this movie goes, as far as its treatment of it, is that it's kind of doing both, but at the same time utilizing it well. Where in the sense of they're having Deadpool come in to completely obliterate and make fun of the MCU, while also kind of being the thing that reinvigorates it. And most of the time, that doesn't work. Usually when you have like a parody of a thing, but you're still like doing the things that were not working about the thing originally. And Deadpool is doing that, but this is kind of the one instance where it worked, at least for me, because because the thing about it is that the character of Deadpool is kind of this dichotomy where he's simultaneously this character who wants to be taken seriously, but is also all jokes, where it's like he needs to say that he wants to be taken seriously for purposes of character arc, but then his actions are like completely opposite, where it's like, yeah, I just don't give a fuck. I'm just doing everything that I want to. Ultimately, I'm ripping through universes. I'm literally using Wolverine's skeleton as a battering ram against TVA agents while dancing to bye, bye, bye. Like, it's a very, very interesting dichotomy that the character of Deadpool has to pull, and just somehow they make it work ultimately every time. And again, I really do have to give credit where credit is due. Ryan Reynolds, say what you will about him, but he is committed to making this character work. And I understand completely why this is the comic book character that he wanted to do, because it's practically Van Wilder and everything that he brings to Van Wilder. And really, honestly, if you want to make the argument, the thing that really he's the only thing that he's good at, honestly, you can call him a one-trick pony if you want. I personally would still like to think that he's capable of more, but I know a lot of people are kind of in the camp that Ryan Reynolds as an actor is kind of a one-trick pony. But say what you will, all of his sensibilities, all of his wit, all of his charm, they work for Deadpool. They really, really do. And while I don't know if this showing is his best display as the character of the 3 movies, 4 if you want to count Origins, but that's not Deadpool, we all know it, of the character, But man, it is if there's one thing that this movie showed, it's that 6 years later, and he has not missed a beat as the character. He still has all the comic timing, all the fourth wall breaks, and now when you get the chance that he gets to use Disney as a punching bag, with certain exceptions. What's it called? Yeah. Dontre, just to let you know, we have already talked about Hall H in the review, and we have just started what's it called, and we have now since transitioned onto the Deadpool review. So like I said, before we get further into it, your guys' initial thoughts on Deadpool. Luke, I'm going to start with you this time.
Just like Deadpool as himself.
Well, in general, Deadpool as himself, the movie.
The thing about Deadpool is I don't really care about him when he doesn't have the mask on. Like, I feel like when Ryan Reynolds does put the mask on, he almost becomes possessed by the character, or even when dancing in the beginning, the guy who his dance double, he like gets possessed by the soul of Deadpool. I'm not saying his movies are laugh out loud funny, but they're always funny enough. Like, they're very enjoyable. Everyone he has interactions with, it's a great contrast, especially in this one because he's with this grumpy Wolverine. But I've always enjoyed the movies, and this one I enjoyed as well. But like with many of the MCU characters that have been introduced in Phase 4 and 5, I really like to see him in a real team movie, like a Secret Wars. I think that's his real playground where he could do some damage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially in Secret Wars, given that Deadpool, I mean, he even showed it in this movie. You know, you have Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, but Deadpool, and specifically Ryan Reynolds, is like the star. So it's going to be interesting to see him back in a true ensemble piece where he doesn't get to play lead fiddle. Because same as well, even Downey, you know, even though he has kind of centered himself as the center of the MCU, even he still kind of, it was interesting how they were able to utilize him as part of the ensemble in Infinity War, really. It was very interesting. Jeremy, your thoughts on just Ryan Reynolds in general, his take on Deadpool and the movie itself.
Ryan Reynolds is Canadian Chevy Chase, and he does it really well in Deadpool. But there's something weird about like him now biting the hand that feeds him, kind of a thing. That is fun, but sometimes feels a little toothless. I don't know. It feels like Ryan Reynolds doesn't have a personality anymore. It's like, where's the difference between Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool?
There is none.
You know.
But the reason why is because that's not exclusive to Deadpool. That's always been him. If you look at all of his movies, I was literally just watching clips from Just Friends last night. It's from Van Wilder, Waiting. You go back. All of those movies, he's been Deadpool in all of those movies.
The dramatic turns is him kind of just taking that persona and fucking with it. Like,
yes.
Adventureland is a great performance where it's not really a performance.
Yes, exactly, because it's just him turning himself off. And that's kind of where, like, I always have to correct people, where everyone is like, oh, Ryan Reynolds is just Deadpool now. I'm like, no, that's always been Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Always. From all the way back when he debuted, he has never not been that. So that's kind of why it's always interesting to me when you see like the perfect melding of character and actor personality, you know, as far as kind of, that's why I never really I'm not going to say I don't understand people's criticisms of it. I do, but I never have understood why people would use that against him, because I'm like, okay, sure, you can complain that he doesn't have that much range as an actor, but you always like seeing him. He never disappoints, at least not for me. And I'll tell you this much, he has used it to create some interesting work. I like Buried. I like what's the one that he did with Denzel, Safe House. I like Mississippi Grind. The Voices, if you guys haven't seen The Voices, you have to watch that. That is a movie that is completely slept on and almost nobody has seen. And that one's interesting, where the premise of that movie is he's this kind of weirdo, ne'er-do-well guy who is actually a slowly going insane sociopath who fantasizes about his pets talking to him and telling him to murder people, which he does brutally and violently. It's an insane movie. I heavily recommend it. And it's kind of interesting seeing him like utilize the Deadpool, but to like play like an actual sociopath, not like a fun sociopath that we like, you know, him cutting up other like, you know, bad guys. And as far as Deadpool and Wolverine goes, as far as the plot of the movie, it is unfortunately, the reason why I say this is the weakest one is because just from a screenwriting and a story standpoint, a lot of this movie relies on kind of coincidence and the fact that the bad guys are complete and utter morons. But At the same time, this is one of the few instances where they can get away with it because, again, the fact that Deadpool is so nonchalant and is always poking fun at it and at the camera, and the point of the character is to point out how stupid something is, and the fact that it does have that extra self-awareness to it, that to me is kind of why it works, why you can get away with the fact that Paradox's plan ultimately Tom Wamsgang's plan ultimately makes no sense at all. And like when you meet the character of Cassandra Nova and all the cameos that they throw in there, like none of it makes sense at the end of the day. And they're literally just basically saying, yeah, this has to happen for, you basically have Deadpool looking at the camera saying, yeah, this has to happen for plot purposes. But like, I'm like, yeah, that's what we want to see. I think that's kind of what everybody who's shitting on this movie is misunderstanding, is that, yes, all of those plot contrivances that normally would cause a regular movie to tank and pitfall, that's everything that makes movies like this one specifically work. I don't know. Like, am I making sense here, or like, am I kind of just like talking out of my ass? I literally don't even know anymore.
I think you're right on the border between. So
okay, all right.
Keep going. We'll see where you land.
Well, we'll see ultimately where this conversation takes us. Especially because I'm actually impressed that we haven't gotten in like as heavy spoilers as I thought that we would have. I'm 31 minutes in, and I'm kind of impressed by that. So
especially because since this movie doesn't have that heavy of a plot, I'm surprised we haven't been like just throwing things out there.
Right. Well, because I had a bit in the podcast notes where it's like, I'm like, plot summary, does the movie work? Does it matter whether it works? And I'm like,
you know what?
I don't know if it does.
That goes with your argument about why people are critiquing it the way it is. Because I went into the movie, I wasn't expecting fucking Spider-Man 2.
Right.
I wasn't expecting,
exactly.
I wasn't there for that. I was there for just a good time. And I had a good time.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, to me, the real star of this movie is Hugh Jackman.
Right. We're saving him, but that's exactly it though. It's like I wasn't going into this expecting any grand overarching things. I figured there would be like, obviously there were going to be some things pointing to like plot developments that would set up for future Marvel movies, just given the fact that it is a multiverse movie. But again, for this crazy multiverse hopping movie, I was pretty impressed with how confined it was and how still down to earth and how much it felt like a Deadpool movie, And the Deadpool movies are fun movies. So yeah, as far as like going into like, I went in with no expectations. Marvel has been pretty disappointing up until this point with a few exceptions. And I went in and I had a good time, which is all that I wanted to have after it felt like disappointment after disappointment after disappointment this summer specifically, which is supposed to be the time where you're supposed to have fun with movies. I just wanted one movie in the summer that I could have fun with, and I got it. That's exactly what I got. I had an absolute blast. I didn't think that much. I know I feel like I'm going against everything that I've been saying for the last 10 years about wanting a little bit extra out of my movies. But in this instance, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with what I got. And I had an absolute blast, and I had so much fun with it, which is really all that I wanted.
I said in my Letterboxd review, it made me want to watch X2. And I watched X-Men 1 this morning. I just woke up and put it on and was like, I was thinking of that. And the end credits to this movie, this isn't a spoiler because this movie's kind of like one big goodbye to the Fox era of Marvel.
Yep.
And so it has this montage of behind the scenes footage, primarily of Hugh Jackman, but of most of the Fox era heroes set to Green Day's what is it? I hope you have the time of your life.
Yes.
And the whole time I was like, I remember I have those DVD extras.
Yep.
Like I have them somewhere in my home watching all those interviews. And so I woke up this morning, I popped in X-Men 1 and I was like, oh yes. I was like, I guess that if that was the job of Deadpool and Wolverine, to make me go back and watch them and be like, oh yeah, I remember this. I guess it did its job well.
I couldn't agree more. And honestly, even to add on to that point, I was watching Critical Drinker, and he actually brought this up, and I thought that was a very good point, is that, so you're right. So it's an homage, it's a love letter, it's a goodbye to the Fox era. And Ryan Reynolds even admitted that. Like, this isn't a secret. Ryan Reynolds literally came out on stage at Hall H and said, like, yeah, we owe our existence to that 20th Century Fox, everything. There were some ups, there were some downs, there were some goods, there were some bads, but at the end of the day, it was kind of like our formation, our formative ground. And Critical Drinker even brought up that even more so the Deadpool and the Fox universe, it was kind of a love letter to that 2000s era of superhero filmmaking, where it was before Marvel, the Marvel came to dominate it, and they were still like kind of ironing out the kinks, and they could, be a little bit more experimental and throw like a Catwoman or like a Blade Trinity or like an Elektra at the wall. Obviously not all of it worked, but just the fact that they were able to make that You know, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of a love letter to a more like experimental and more interesting time when you didn't know if every superhero movie was going to work, but there had been enough of a groundswell and a success to prove, okay, the genre isn't completely dead, you know?
Well, a lot of those movies like are aping a lot of the first movies in those series, like X-Men 1 and Spider-Man 1, are all kind of aping off Superman, the 70s Superman.
Right.
And then the sequels to those movies are all like genre movies, but not in the MCU way where Captain America, Winter Soldier, everybody was like, oh, it's espionage. It's not. But X-Men 1 is way more like a supernatural action movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, interesting, different bits that kind of set that movie apart.
There's way more like James Cameron-y
body horror stuff too.
Than there is like any awareness to like of canon or anything. And then there's a lot of crap in it too, where like I watching it this morning, and I told Dom this last night because he texted me like, you're gonna be on the podcast. I was like, I'm gonna talk, but I'm gonna talk mostly about X-Men 1 and 2.
Right.
But there's dialogue in the first movie that's straight up literally Professor X being like, that's Scott Summers, his Cyclops.
Yep.
And that's Aurora Monroe, and she's Storm. Like literally just saying things out loud.
I was having the conversation with Mac when because a couple episodes ago I was a couple nights ago I was on with my friend Mac and we were talking about we were just breaking down and talking about like all of the Fox X-Men movies, and I was talking about the first X-Men. I'm like, the first X-Men, I'm like, it's literally right in the middle. It's not the best, it's not the worst, it's right in the middle, but it is crucial as far as kicking off the foundation, because I'm like, yeah, there's some incredible stuff in there, and then you have Storm saying, you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else, which Joss Whedon is still kicking himself over, even though he has long been since kicked out of Hollywood.
My favorite things, and this is if you're a dork, if you've listened to the commentary to X-Men, one of Bryan Singer's other buddies, who's also a pervert.
I mean, it's Bryan Singer's friend, so of course it is.
Like, he has nothing to do with the movie. It's literally like Bryan Singer being like, hey, this is my buddy, and he's just in the commentary with him. But his buddy gives him a better punchline. His buddy's like, man, look, man, it croaks. And then Bryan Singer goes, oh, yeah. And it's like, it's right there. It's such a better punchline for that. Like I like also the first X-Men movie is so lean. It's like an hour
44 minutes.
Boom, done. You're in. You're out. Quick, and you're like, oh,
crazy. Wow. Honestly, that was the craziest thing, was seeing like the different times, like the different timelines of each of the movies. And this is the thing everybody forgets: the longest of the original 3 X-Men movies is X2. X-Men: The Last Stand is only an hour 45 too.
Yeah,
X2 is even more insane when you consider how much that
2 hours and
X2
is like is it 2 hours 15,
something like that. Yeah.
And the other ones are like 90 minutes, probably a little bit more.
Right.
In, you're out. You're like, holy crap.
Right. Luke, what were your thoughts on the whole nostalgia factor of Deadpool and Wolverine, and kind of that era of superhero filmmaking that it evoked?
I think just to mention like X2, I rewatched all the X-Men's before this, and I'd never really liked X2 that much, but rewatching it now, it's like one of the best live action Marvel movies. I don't know what's happened. Maybe it's the last few years of just mediocre, and to return to that. But yeah, I did get the nostalgia feels when certain people showed up, or just the general homage to the whole thing, and of course the behind the scenes footage at the end. It just reminded of a simpler time when no one really knew what they were doing. We were just trying new things, new characters. Before it was a money printing machine whenever a new movie came out. So it was nice just to look back.
It was, ultimately. And I think it was a really, really nice touch. And again, it shows that just as far as Reynolds and the team and what they were doing, they knew what they were doing here, as far as they really know how to walk the line between, again, just balls to the wall, not taking themselves seriously at all, while also still having a little bit of that heart and substance. Because that really is ultimately what's made Deadpool, I feel, as compelling as it is. Because the first Deadpool, I think, is actually a really well-written and well-done movie. Like, just from a script standpoint, that movie works really, really well. Even to the point when they are calling themselves out of that ridiculous, bonkers last act, it still works as, like, kind of a love story. And the sequels definitely have not been as good writing wise, but they've done a really good job of maintaining that level, that combination of heart with with like kind of the insanity, really, ultimately. Because the whole first movie is literally about, okay, is my girlfriend going to accept me even when I'm dying? And then obviously when I get this mutant factor activated in me, that ultimately turns me into like this freak mongoloid. And then the second one is basically like, okay, I fucked up and got her killed, so now I'm gonna try and atone for that, and then just not ultimate. Like there is always that underlying level of genuine feeling that I think really does elevate these above just complete and utter schlock. Like these movies aren't cynical. I think that's really kind of what helps them and elevates them, because they very easily could be, but the fact that they're not, I actually really, really do appreciate. And so, Jeremy, I mean, perfect segue, Mr. Never Coming Back, because another person that said that he was never coming back, Mr. Hugh Jackman, and he even admitted it and talked about the commentary. What's it called? Like the press behind the scenes, the press junket interviews behind the scenes, where he's like, yeah, I said I wasn't coming back after Logan, and now here I am. So I guess that makes me a sociopath, which I'm like, first of all, that just validated me so much, because I'm like, finally, an actor finally admitting that they're all sociopaths. It's taken fucking almost 100 years, but hey, we finally got it. Better late than never. So that was just nice in general. But I mean, Jackman, he's back, and again, clearly has not missed a beat. I was worried a little bit that they were there was a brief microsecond where I was worried that they were gonna pull a Star Wars new trilogy and they were gonna ruin him, and thankfully they did not. He was back. What did you guys think of Jackman as not old man Logan, but world weary Logan? I'm gonna call him that way. The Logan that is basically what they're doing with Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, but everybody loves it here for whatever reason. Jeremy, sorry, Luke. Yeah, go.
I thought it was different enough to any Logan that we'd seen before to differentiate and not ruin Logan. And look, this movie doesn't ruin Logan at all. I think people are way overreacting.
In fact, I would say that if anything, the decision that they make at the opening as far as how they choose to continue directly off Logan is brilliant. And I loved it.
I thought. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, I'm done.
I thought he was really good, and I thought he played such a different Logan that it worked. And so a different enough Logan too, because again, watching X-Men 1 and a bit, I started X2. I'm literally paused right now at Iceman meeting Wolverine.
In the kitchen scene where he breathes on the beer?
No, earlier. I'm like,
oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. When they shake
his hand. Yeah. I'm literally paused right at that moment. But he is so consistent as that Wolverine from the first movie all the way to Logan. And so to see this Logan is like a loser in a different way. Like, so he plays such a good loser Logan that it feels like a different dude. And he could tap back into it like it's nothing, and it was just awesome. And can I talk about the mask?
Oh yeah, talk about the mask, please.
So he puts the fucking mask on. Spoiler alert: he finally puts the Wolverine mask on.
Right. I mean, we all knew that the suit was in there, so like, the cowl and the mask is coming out at some point. Like, dude, I don't know about you. Like, I was like, I have not cheered at a Marvel movie in a long, long time. I cheered. I audibly cheered.
I cheered a few times. It had been a while.
It had been a while since we had a Marvel movie worth cheering at.
I cheered when Wesley Snipes pulled up. Spoiler.
I mean, that too.
I think I cheered most for Gambit.
That I mean, that in general was just incredible. That was like, literally, it's like they knew exactly what they were doing, where they literally have the MCU Hall H moment in the fucking movie where it's like, all right, here comes Jennifer Garner's Elektra, Wesley Snipes is Blade, Channing Tatum is Gambit, they're all here.
Like, what the fuck?
But everybody was cheering. And then when Wesley Snipes is like, when he has the moment where he's like, the two moments for me with Snipes, there's only one Blade, and some motherfuckers are still trying to ice skate uphill.
Oh, Jesus.
I was like, yes! I was.
Have you seen his tweets leading up to this? Like, leading up to Deadpool Wolverine?
Oh, yeah.
Where he was like talking shit about Blade recently. And the way he tweets, I was like, oh, he had to have helped rewrite Blade.
Had to have.
The way he tweets, you're like, oh my God, like that's where the ice skating line comes from, because he just talks like that.
That's just him.
He just is.
That's
like
just him.
So I wonder if Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes kind of have a kindred thing where they're like, 100%. I think we like our characters a lot because we are them.
Yes, literally. Like, again, that's the thing that everybody misses. Ryan Reynolds did not become Deadpool. Wesley Snipes did not become Blade. They have always been those characters, and they have just put them into each and different. I mean, come on. Wesley Snipes was even Blade in, what was the movie where him, Patrick Swayze, and Leguizamo were drag queens? What's that movie called? I can never remember the name. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Literally fucking, like, he was even, there were even bits of Blade in that one. Like, I watched Mo Better Blues for the first time a couple years ago. Even New Jack City, there's elements of Blade in those performances.
Doesn't he technically come back as Blade in
What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, the episode.
What We Do in the Shadows?
He's Blade like on Zoom or whatever.
Yep.
So it's funny.
Yep.
But going back to the point, so Hugh Jackman puts the mask on, and I was like, oh, that's why he never wore it, because he looks fucking crazy.
Yes, he does. It looks dumb. But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
whatever.
one
bit. Because probably this is the one chance we'll ever get it anyway.
Yep.
And it feels like it's kind of like for audiences to be like, this is what you wanted. This dumb idiot in a fucking mask.
Literally, and you have Deadpool there being like, finally giving the people what they wanted. 20 years late, but better late than never.
Yeah.
Like, that's a line in this movie.
I'd rather him in the brown outfit, though. I thought him in the brown outfit looked amazing.
That was pretty cool. I would have preferred that. Agreed. But still, we got the yellow suit. They made it work, honestly. And again, my thoughts on Jackman as well, as far as him coming back.
And he's super jacked man.
Super jacked man, indeed. Exactly. And I love how, too, he complained about the diet. It's like, well, clearly you're still willing to do it, you know?
Dehydrating and all that shit.
Exactly. My thoughts on Jackman is that Jackman and Downey are the only two characters that have played those characters consistently on and off for the course of an extended almost 20-year period, right? You know, Downey 08 to 19, and then Jackman 2000 to 2017, you know? And like, that's a long time that they played those characters. And in that time, you basically got to see, you saw a full character arc across the course of however many years it was for each of them. You know, you saw them obviously at one point, and then when they ended, when both their characters respectively died, they had really come full circle, you know? But I think what's even more interesting about Jackman's take on the character is that, yes, Dante, we also got the brown effort. We literally just mentioned it. What was even more interesting about Downey's, about Jackman's performance, I should say, is that you got to see different layers and different molds of Logan. You're right, Jeremy, that you know, he was consistent with that character, but like, I really do like how, again, you see him as like the fish out of water in the first X-Men, to like the reluctant team member, to new team leader in the X-Men in the first in the original X-Men trilogy. And then you kind of, you know, all the prequels and appearances aside, you kind of get like the post X-Men trilogy, you know, Hazard phase, kind of in a way the first one of these types of performances we got with the Wolverine. Then he gets to take more of the mentor role with Days of Future Past, and then you have Logan, which is just like, leak in it of its own, where it's like, okay, like, I literally am on my last leg. This is my final swan song. And it is interesting to me here how, even though we've arguably seen every element that Jackman can bring to this performance, he's still finding new things to bring to this character. I think that's probably the most interesting thing to me about this performance, is even though, again, we're setting him up for failure, where I'm like, oh, great, they're going to do the Luke Skywalker thing. They're going to make him bedraggled, pissed off, you know, miserable, moping, not wanting to get involved in the action. But they even managed to make that compelling. And I don't know if that's credit to Jackman and just his understanding and handling of the character, or just the again, Reynolds and Sean Levi and the team that was in place behind him as far as knowing how to best utilize him, or if it was just his back and forth with Deadpool too. Because, man, I mean, Jackman and Reynolds have been hinting and hyping up, and Reynolds has clearly wanted to do Deadpool and Wolverine with Jackman so badly for the last couple of years, ever since he finally managed to rescue Deadpool from the absolute monstrosity that was X-Men Origins. It's been very clear that he's been wanting to do this for a very, very long time. And I mean, they just, in terms of them, like, look, at the end of the day, regardless of what cameos we can get, they're like, let's just give the people what they want, which is Deadpool and Wolverine together, bantering back and forth and fighting. And ultimately, that, I think, is why the criticisms have me scratching my head the most, because they literally this is a movie that is the definition of giving the people what they want. Okay, Dodger actually brings up a good question, which is, what timeline do you think this Wolverine is from specifically? Because obviously they stated at the beginning that this Wolverine that we're following is not the same Wolverine from the original X-Men movies, as you see Deadpool literally exhuming his corpse, or what's left of it, in the opening scene of this movie. So that actually is point, because again, you have a montage in the beginning when Deadpool is brought to the TVA, and where he's popping around to different realities in order to try and see, you know, different Wolverines. You get like 5'2" Wolverine, comic accurate Wolverine. You get brown suit Wolverine fighting the Hulk. You've got
Age of Apocalypse
Wolverine. You got Wolverine literally on the X-Cross. Obviously, again, Luke, the return of Cavill. You know, we're getting the full range of Cavill as well this year too with his cameo.
He keeps
as
showing up,
Wolverine.
but
He keeps
he's
showing up.
rarely a lead.
Yep, they're just not making him a lead anymore.
They can't get him to leave the studio.
Nope.
Like, get out of here.
Yep,
Go.
just like,
Apparently, he
leave.
might be in McQuarrie's next Tom Cruise movie.
Which would be
I've
cool.
been hearing things.
Which would be cool.
I hope
I'd be
another
down for
hook
that.
hits him in the fucking face again.
Yep. But yeah, so what timeline do we think this Wolverine is from? It doesn't matter because it's another like Extinction era one where all the X-Men have died. He's the only one left, and at the end he comes over to Deadpool's universe in order to save it. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of okay with Deadpool, you know, with my universe getting
with
clipped.
the yellow uniform. I feel like in my head, I imagine them all being like the Chris Claremont, like fucking like classic. Like they all look like comic book accurate.
Yes,
like, you know, X-Men, uncanny X-Men. Like that's the way I think of them. Like, or maybe 97, not exactly 97, but
not
like
exactly
that,
97.
You know what I'm saying? That like
yeah,
probably the same universe the Professor X that got his neck broken from Universe of Madness. Like that same universe. I'm guessing.
Oh, so you think that's 838 universe, which is funny because there were original rumors and drafts that 838 universe was going to play a much bigger part and that Magneto and Wanda were going to be in there. And then I heard that they scrapped that when they did that creative overhaul.
So what universe is fucking Beast from Marvel's in? Because that's I think
that's the one we're gonna see in Secret Wars. Like
you think so?
I think
still
so.
Frazier.
Oh, he's still Frazier. Listen. The fact that what's it called? Yeah, Dante does say, of course, we have to be careful because he feels like we don't have fully fleshed out characters anymore, just cameos, and people will go crazy.
That's how I felt a lot of it, because that was my problem with No Way Home, because it was just like I know these characters not from this movie but from other movies, and the characters that are in these movies besides Peter have nothing to do. And that's how I felt about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes and no. I disagree a little bit, only because, again, they are there in order to kind of, you know, serve as different, like, versions of, like, okay, these are, like, the different versions of you that you could become after suffering this kind of traumatizing, what do they call it in Across the Spider-Verse that I keep forgetting? Nexus event. I can't remember what they call it, but this
canon
is like
events.
This is your canon event, right? And these are they're kind of there to offer and show the different possibilities as far as where he could go. That's what I would say. But as far as so that's the one exception that I'll make where, okay, no, those two characters actually do serve a narrative purpose and are not just cameos for the sake of being cameos. But Dante, I am inclined to agree with you. You are right. But here's the problem. That's all that's getting the people excited anymore. And unfortunately, it's worked as far as getting people reinvigorated into Marvel, you know? Going all the way back to WandaVision when that came out in 2021. When did people go nuts? When Evan Peters popped up in that show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the thing we also got to take into consideration too is that, like, I guess it depends on the movie, because this movie, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, like, whereas No Way Home felt like it was trying to compete. It felt like it was trying to compete with the awesomeness of Spider-Verse, but Spider-Verse had so much heart and like without having to rely on faces. It's like you got to trust these characters more. And No Way Home just felt like greatest hits.
Right. I see where
and
this
movie is also greatest hits, but it knows where to go for it. Like it knows what it is in a way.
The only thing I'll say to No Way Home once again is that, again, that one specifically, it feels like very similar to how this movie feels like an homage to the 20th Century Fox era. That movie, No Way Home, specifically feels like an homage to Sony Spider-Man era and Avi Arad specifically, because it was always Avi Arad's dream for years and years and years to have Sinister Six in a movie, and the fact that that's what that felt like finally specifically, and the fact that they were kind of able to pull from all the pre-existing live action Spider-Man movies, that's to me is why that works.
So these two movies are really Kevin Feige's anniversary presents to the Donner Company and to Avi Arad.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Basically,
he owes his entire career to the Donner Company. He got his start working under Lawrence Schuler Donner. So
I was watching one of these Marvel movies the other day, and his name popped up in a credit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's credited on X-Men and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think it was Spider-Man 1 I was watching it.
Yep. He is credited as a producer on that movie. And he has talked extensively about how Sam Raimi's direction and take on that movie very, very heavily influenced how he wanted the tone for the MCU to be. He's talked
Have
about
you seen
that
the latest
extensively.
rumor of Raimi doing Spider-Man 4?
I have heard that. Yes, I have seen that.
I don't think I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I still want it to be Drew Goddard personally, especially if they end up having Daredevil in there. But again, the problem there is that's not exclusively Marvel calling the shots there. Unfortunately,
I feel like Sam just has too much of a I feel like he's already kind of like, I'm done.
he already tried the whole thing with Multiverse of Madness. He came in, he's like, yeah, I'm having to like clean up this movie after Scott Derrickson didn't want to do this again, and so we kind of had to like revamp that. And that movie was already kind of a mess behind the scenes.
I like that movie for the Sam Raimi of it all. The MCU stuff I don't need, but the
I agree.
Raimi of it all, I like it for that.
Because that one, I love how they have the cameos in this movie literally just to kill them off. That's my favorite part of that movie.
Just like the weird, like I was cracking up when it's zombie Doctor Strange.
That was awesome.
But he's giving like an inspirational speech, and it's like the skeleton just like I was like, that's Sam Raimi to a T. I love it. It's so goofy. It's Looney Tunes.
Yes. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap up is obviously, again, we mentioned the cameos. It's no secret. Everybody who's been on the internet the last couple of days knows what they are. Snipes is the best. It was cool seeing Channing Tatum. Garner's there. It was nice seeing Daphne Keane back. Chris Evans for me, I thought that was a really funny bait and switch there. I thought that was pretty good.
I called it. Like I heard him. I was like, he's not Cap. He's Johnny.
I mean, it was pretty obvious that it wasn't going to be, but still the bait and switch and how they use it was pretty good. The only other thing that I'll say is how do we feel about the whole Luke? I keep forgetting the fucking term. I really got to get these multiverse terms down. It's canon event in Across the Spider-Verse. What is it? What is the term that they introduced in this movie? And again, I like how they utilize it where it's like the most important person in each universe, that if that person dies in that universe will collapse. What is that term? I keep forgetting it.
Anchor being.
Anchor being. That's it. So in terms of this movie being the one that introduces the term anchor being, as far as how do we feel about this movie and how it balanced out like the greater multiverse, because we still do get the TVA, Alioth, Wunmi Musaku reprises her role from from Loki as well. Obviously, again, Tom Wamsgans as their TVA guy, who is again just literally playing as if he was Tom. He earned every penny.
I wish he was Mr. Bean. He was given a Mr. Bean performance. Might as well have hired Rowan Atkinson.
Yes, but because he has the baggage of having played Tom Wamsgans for the last 5 to 6 years, I think that's what adds it to it, because it literally is. I'm like, oh wow, Tom. So this is where you've taken Waystar Royko. Good to see.
Literally, I was just like, oh, okay.
But we still don't know why Thor is crying.
Right.
With Deadpool,
I hope Secret Wars.
That's the biggest question.
Secret Wars is 100% gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The anchor being, we don't know who the anchor being is in the MCU. I think people think
the rumor is that they said it's going to be Spider-Man.
Witch,
they said it's going to be Spider-Man. There's a couple different people that they're circling right now, but my bet is it's going to be Spider-Man.
What if it's Hawkeye?
Or better yet, what if, again, the premise of Doomsday, not necessarily Secret Wars, but Doomsday, is that the death of Tony Stark, he was the anchor being, and so now obviously they're racing to find a new anchor being, and then the end Doom comes in, and then obviously that's where they introduce Doom. And they see, oh my God, you're Tony, but not. And then Doom discovers the multiverse, smashes it together, creates Battle World. I think, guys, I just figured out the
I need
plot
to
for
read
Doomsday.
the comic.
I heavily recommend the 2015 Secret Wars one. I actually it's one of the few comics that I actually have in physical copy, and I really, really enjoy it.
That's insane.
But yeah, guys, I think I just figured out the plot for Doomsday. So in 2 years, when this movie comes out, check back on this episode. See how accurate I was.
Have you seen have you seen the leaked Fantastic Four footage? Have you seen the footage of it?
Well, I was under the impression that they hadn't shot anything yet. They had just started shooting.
They shot I watched some of it.
Okay. I sent it to you, though.
Yeah, you did. Oh no, yes, I did see it. I did see it.
The 4x3, it looks like test footage of NASA kind of stuff.
That looks incredible.
And the fact that they are going for the 60s vibe, I do appreciate that. If the movie
looks like that, like if it just looks like one big documentary now episode,
I'm in.
Love it.
I'm in. And again, this is the brilliance of Matt Shakman as a director, and why I think that again he is the secret guy to look out for, because again, Matt Shakman, people forget this is a dude that has literally been directing TV for 20 years. He has directed at least a couple of episodes of almost every major TV show of the last couple of years. He directed the second episode of The Boys. He directed the Spoils of War episode of Game of Thrones. He made his bones directing episodes of It's Always Sunny back in the day. This is a guy who knows what he is doing as far as evoking different styles. And let me tell you something, as much as I did not like WandaVision, the direction of that show and how each episode so gracefully evoked the era of TV with which it was paying homage to, I thought was brilliant. And so as far as if there is a person who can perfectly capture a different time period and make it feel both modern and also classical at the same time, it's Matt Shakman. And I am 100% looking forward to Fantastic Four and what he's going to be able to bring to this. And he's finally going to be the guy to crack the code that has been plaguing Fantastic Four for the last 20 years of its existence.
Earlier this year, earlier this summer, I went and saw. Have you ever heard of the Right Stuff? That
I have, yes.
astronaut
Which
movie?
they make that incredible joke about in Armageddon.
Yeah. Right Stuff is a great movie. If you turned Fantastic Four into The Right Stuff with the energy of Armageddon, you'd have a perfect movie.
Yeah.
You'd have a perfect superhero movie. If it's like this majestic thing about going to the stars and like the Thing at home being like, I'm a rock monster. Like, getting a little bit dramatic, being like, look what they did to me.
Yes. And the fact that it's Richie from The Bear going to be doing that part, which I love. I love that. I'm still not necessarily sold on the other three, but as soon as I heard Evan confirmed as the Thing, I'm like, let's fucking go.
In the clip,
and he's a Brooklyn native too. Finally, we have an American playing an American part. We don't have a Brit swapped in for it.
And I heard what's his name talking, because in the clip you hear him speaking, Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, and he has a very like old timey 60s voice. I'm like, okay. I was like, I like this. I'm
looking forward to it, especially because they're like, okay, we can basically do what they did with Homecoming with this. We don't have to do the origin story. We're getting Galactus, we're getting Franklin and Valeria, we're getting Mole Man, we're getting Puppet Master, we're getting all those guys. I cannot wait to see. And again, just if you're capturing the 60s vibe, Paul Walter Hauser as the Mole Man and John Malkovich as the Puppet Master. That's genius casting right there. That is genius casting, if you ask me.
And if
they're in their own universe, so
they're in their own universe, separate from the MCU. They're going to join the main 616 universe at the end of their movie. But the fact that this movie is again going to be very similar to actually what The Acolyte. And again, but bear with me here. As far as it's so divorced and separated from the main timeline that you can just appreciate it for itself. The Acolyte being what it was. But as far as you can appreciate it on its own without having to worry about it connecting to anything else. I think that's very, very key and crucial.
I just want some tilted camera angles and Mr. Fantastic doing a stretch punch.
Yes.
So like John Malkovich. And like John Malkovich looking like the Nutty Professor. Like I just want some fucking crazy,
I'm just picturing for whatever reason, even though I know it's not, I'm just picturing John Malkovich as the Vulture, as what he was going to be from Spider-Man 4. Yes, as the Puppet Master.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's going to be sick, to say the least. Like I said, 2025 is going to be a crucially important year for Marvel in terms of the 3 movies that they're putting out. And I'm not counting Blade in that as well. So, like I said, before we get out of here, our final thoughts and star rating for Deadpool and Wolverine. Luke, I'm going to start with you.
I definitely wasn't disappointed. I'm not going to shit on it. I had too much of a good time to do that. It delivered what the title was. We got a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Just them interacting throughout the movie was enough. Love the cameos, especially Channing Tatum as Gambit. Just seeing that fulfilled some hole in me I didn't know I had.
And the fact that he was purposely doing a bad Cajun accent that Deadpool was making fun of every time. Love that.
I like the Ben Affleck Daredevil joke of Jennifer Garner being fine that he's dead. So on the whole, the plot's a little thin. It's a high 3.5 star for me.
Yes. Jeremy, your final thoughts and star rating.
I wasn't expecting Spider-Man 2. But at least it was an amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
Don't say that.
I was about to say, wait a minute. You take that back, sir. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece of bad filmmaking.
I'm sorry. That movie's poo-poo.
It is, but in the best way possible.
Maybe I'll feel that way in like 5 years.
Yeah. Give it time, man. I'm telling you. Jamie Foxx saying, I'm Electro. It's incredible.
I can't. I might as well just
2014. 2014. Peak year cinema.
Might as well just watch Batman Forever. I give it. Here's the thing about Deadpool Wolverine, though. I don't think I'm gonna remember it in like a week, sadly, because I was thinking about it as I left yesterday. I was like, wait, what happened? It's like, what happened in that movie? But so I give it 2 to 2.5 stars. But it's not bad. I'm not giving it like, oh, it's terrible. I was just saying I had a good time. I was there to have a good time in a movie. I'm not there to think about it. I just had a blast. It made me want to rewatch X-Men. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm finishing X-Men 2.
Yes.
Like
4.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm going high because, again, I'm taking a couple of different things into consideration here. I'm taking into consideration the year in which it came out. I think that's important. I really do. Context within which of a year within which a movie comes out is important in terms of understanding a movie's place in the culture ultimately. So that I think is first and foremost. And the fact that 2024 has been a dog shit doo-doo year for movies in general. Somehow worse than 2020, the year of no movies. The fact that I got exactly what I wanted, the fact that it surpassed my already incredibly low expectations, and the fact that at the end of the day, I just had a good, fun time. Again, I wasn't expecting anything big. I wasn't expecting anything extravagant. I was expecting some Deadpool shenanigans. I was expecting Jackman to deliver. I was expecting some crazy cameos. I was expecting some fun action, and that's exactly what I got. I got exactly what I wanted. The half star is off because it's not a perfect movie. But again, like, it's very rare that you get exactly what you want and that it delivers so much time that's an easy trap to fall into. But the fact that this one did, that is why it merits the high rating. So yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine. Will it be the summer event? Will it be the movie event of the year? No, that's still Dune 2, safe to say. But as far as it being the movie event of the summer, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say, considering the fact that every other movie this summer is flopped except for Inside Out 2. So yeah.
And it's already made like 430 million.
Exactly. No, this movie will make its money back. This movie will be the payoff that they want. So with that being said, thank you guys once again for coming on to and tuning into another episode. Make sure you guys tune into our House of the Dragon penultimate episode recap tonight, which I will be covering with Eli. Luke, starting with you, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
They can follow me at Luke Reviews on YouTube. There's a X-Men movie ranking there sitting for you, waiting for your view because the algorithm killed it for no reason, like just flatlined. I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoy watching it. So yeah, Alien is next.
Nice.
So.
And Jeremy, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
You can't follow me anywhere. Don't look for me.
He doesn't exist. He's invisible.
Exist. I'm not here.
Although we have seen your face on the podcast too. So
yeah, the one time
that it happened.
Don't
exactly.
look for me.
Don't look for him. Exactly.
I'm never coming.
Coming back. Still issuing the proclamation. Once again, thanks to Dontre for hopping in on the comments. Wish you could have been here, obviously, but we know you're at Comic-Con. And, Dontre actually got to witness the events that happened at Hall 8 that we, unfortunately, were only witnessed on Twitter yesterday. He got to witness those.
There's a video before Robert Downey Jr. came up, you hear somebody in the background because Joe Russo goes, we have to get the greatest actor. And someone goes, Ben Affleck?
I heard someone say Jared Leto.
Yeah,
someone says Jared Leto, but that was great. My favorite. Just Ben Affleck? Like, as a question.
It's just a reaction.
So random.
I can't think of a better spot to end it. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast. Subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. This episode will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow, along with the House of the Dragon penultimate recap. As always, people, 12 seasons in a short film. Ben Affleck? We'll see you guys later.